Did you know that the construction of a building intended for sale to a buyer is considered a supply under GST? Yet, did you know that sale of a house after receiving the completion certificate is outside the scope of GST? Yes, the scope of supply under GST can be a confusing affair. But don't worry, we have it all broken down for you. In today's video, I'll take you through definition, elements, and scope of supply under the GST law. This will help you decide the applicability of GST on the same. Hello and welcome. I am AJ from Clear, from the makers of Clear Tax. It is India's largest tax and financial services platform. Clear serves more than 3,000 large enterprises and more than 4 lakh growing businesses. If you would like to get clear explanation of updates relating to GST, invoicing, e-way bills and more, then please do subscribe to our channel. Under the GST law, supply is considered a taxable event for charging GST. The liability to pay tax arises at the time of supply of goods or services. Thus, determining whether or not a transaction falls under the meaning of supply is important to decide whether GST is applicable on it. Let's take a look at the exact definition under the Central Goods and Service Tax Act. Under the GST Act, the expression supply includes all forms of supply of goods or services or both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, or disposal made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course or furtherance of business. You can pause the video if you would like to read and understand what each of these terms mean. Number 2. The activities specified in Schedule 1 made or agreed to be made without a consideration. And number 3. The activities to be treated as supply of goods or supply of services as referred to in Schedule 2. In a few minutes, I'll get to Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 of CGST Act to help you understand better. Supply under GST consists of two important elements. Number one, supply is done for a consideration. Number two, supply is done in the course of furtherance of business. If the above mentioned elements are not met with, it is not considered as a supply. For example, Mr. A buys a table for 10,000 rupees for his personal use and sells it off after 10 months of use to a dealer. This is not considered as supply under the CGST Act as this is not done by Mr. A for the furtherance of business. Similarly, Mr. B provides free coaching to neighboring students as a hobby. This is not considered as supply as this act is not performed for a consideration. However, it is important to note that as specified in Schedule 1 of the CGST Act, certain activities are considered as supply even if it is made without consideration. Now, let's take a look at the scope of supply under GST and what comprises of Schedule 1 and 2. Schedule 1 comprises the activities to be treated as supply even if they are made without consideration. Number 1. The permanent transfer or disposal of business assets where input tax credit has been availed on such assets. Number 2. The supply of goods or services between related distinct persons as defined under the CGST Act when made in the course or furtherance of business, provided that gifts not exceeding 50,000 rupees in value in a financial year by an employer to an employee shall not be treated as supply of goods or services. Number 3. Supply of goods by a principal to their agent, where the agent undertakes to supply such goods on behalf of the principal, or by any agent to his principal, where the agent undertakes to receive such goods on behalf of the principal. And number 4. Import of services by a taxpayer from a related person or from any of their other establishments outside India in the course or furtherance of business. I hope you have found this video useful so far. If you did, then please type in a yes in the comment section below. Moving on to Schedule 2, let's now take a look at activities to be treated as supply of goods or services under the Act. Number 1. Transfer. It includes A. Any transfer of the title in goods. B. Any transfer of right in goods or undivided share in goods without the transfer of title. C. Any transfer of title in goods under an agreement which states that property in goods shall pass at a future date upon payment of full consideration. Number 2. Land and building. Any lease, tenancy, easement, license to occupy land, any lease or letting out of the building, including a commercial, industrial, or residential complex for business or commerce, either wholly or partly, is a supply of services. Number 3. Treatment or process. Any treatment or process which is applied to another person's good is a supply of services. Number 4. Transfer of business assets. Under this section, please note all of the following will be considered to be supply. A. Where goods forming part of the assets of a business are transferred or disposed of by the person carrying on the business, whether or not for a consideration. B. Where goods held or used for the purpose of business are put to any private use, whether or not for a consideration. C. Where any person ceases to be a taxable person, then any goods forming part of the assets of any business carried on by them shall be deemed to be supplied by them in the course of furtherance of business immediately before he ceases to be a taxable person, except when the business is transferred as a going concern or the business is carried on by a personal representative who is deemed to be a taxable person. Number 5. Supply of services. The following shall be treated as a supply of services, namely A. Renting of immobile property and construction of a complex or building, wholly or partly, except where the entire consideration has been received after issuance of completion certificate by the competent authority or after its first occupation, whichever is earlier. B. Temporary transfer or permitting the use of any intellectual property right. C. Development, design, programming, customization, adoption, upgradation, enhancement, implementation of information technology software. D. Agreeing to the obligations to refrain from an act or to tolerate an act or a situation or to do an act. And E. Transfer of the right to use any goods for any purpose for a consideration. Number 6. Composite supply. The sixth item under Schedule 2 is composite supply and comprises the following. A. Works contract as defined under the CGST Act. B. The supply of goods, be it food or any kind of drink for human consumption other than alcohol, where such supply is a consideration. Number 7. Supply of goods. This is the last item under Schedule 2 that constitutes supply and includes the supply of goods by any unincorporated association or body of persons for a valuable consideration. Two very interesting concepts to understand under supply are composite supply and mixed supply. There are certain supplies that are made together with two or more items. Such supplies are further classified into composite supply and mixed supply under GST. Let me break it down. A supply comprising two or more goods or services which are necessarily supplied in conjunction with each other as per frequent business practices followed in that area is called a composite supply. In other words, these items can't be supplied individually. There will be a principal supply and a secondary supply in the whole transaction. In such cases, the tax rate on principal supply will apply to the entire supply. For example, buying a dry fruit gift box for Diwali. It includes dry fruits, a box, and a wrapper. Box and wrapper cannot be sold individually without the main content, which is dry fruits. Moving on to mixed supply, a supply comprising two or more goods or services, wherein the supplies are independent of each other and are not necessarily required to be sold together is called a mixed supply. The first condition to be met for mixed supply is that it should not be a composite supply. In such cases, the tax rate that is higher of two supplies will be applicable to the entire supply. For example, buying a Christmas package consisting of cakes, aerated drinks, chocolates, Santa caps, and other gift items. Each of these items can be sold separately and are not dependent on each other. The CGST Act also comprises a third schedule titled Schedule 3 Activities or Transactions that are neither a supply of goods nor services. This means that none of the following activities will be treated as a supply under GST. Number 1. Employee services under an employment agreement. Number 2. Services by a court or a tribunal other than to a business entity. Number 3. Services by a member of parliament or a person in a constitutional post or government post. Number 4. Funeral and related services. Number 5. Sale of land or a completed building. Number 6. Actionable claims other than the lottery, betting, and gambling. Number 7. Sales from and to non-taxable territories, otherwise known as merchant trade supply. Number 8. High sea sales. So that's all that comes under the concept of supply under GST law. Do save this video to your watch list so that if you are ever in a doubt whether a transaction is a supply under GST and liable to tax or not, you can come back and refer to it. Have you checked out the Clear GST solution yet? It is India's most trusted GST software and offers users so many exclusive features that assure 100% accurate GST returns. With Clear GST, you can connect with hundreds of ERPs and import data error-free. File all returns from GSTR1 to GSTR9C and more, made at least 3x faster. Match 6,000 invoices in a minute and detect 100% tax credits with AI-powered matching. Get 2 to 7% tax savings with smart reconciliation and reports. Get multiple validations done at each step, reviewed by over 60 experts, and choose from a variety of smart analytical reports on tap, and much more. If you would like a demo of Clear GST filing software, please click on the link in the description below and enter your contact details. One of our product experts will schedule a demo at your convenience. We are now at the end of this video. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. Also, please don't forget to click on the link in the description below to explore the Clear GST solution for quick and error-free GST returns. Thank you.